What if I told you that the one that we know as Abraham in the biblical text of the Old Testament was not from a little place in the Middle East called the land of Canaan, Ur of the Chaldeans, or any of those places?
All right, let's see it.
So right now we're in Genesis chapter 14. Let's look at verse 13. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew. What is a Hebrew? Oh, look at that. That's weird. It's not the word Hebrew, but Ibri. Matter of fact, the phonetic spelling is Ibri. It's what is an Ibri? Because this doesn't explain anything.
So that doesn't explain anything because that's just Strong's Concordance, which is a 19th century concordance. And something that I have tried to make very clear is that when you go on social media and appeal to Strong's Concordance as part of an argument, you're just letting everybody know that you don't have the first clue what you're talking about. So the fact that you're not understanding these transliterations is not a surprise. Ivri is the original Hebrew gentilic noun that means Hebrew. Now that gets transliterated into Aramaic, then into Greek, then into Latin, then into Old French, then into Old English, and then into contemporary English, which is why we use Hebrew instead of Ivri. But Strong's Concordance is giving you an also somewhat outdated transliteration. But the word Ivri is based on the name Ever, which we find in the Table of Nations in Genesis 10. And most likely this is based on the verbal root avar, which means to cross over or something like that. And so the Ivri, the Hebrews, are probably the other siders, the idea being they come from the other side of the Jordan River somewhere over there. So this might have to do with Abraham's ostensible origins in the land of Mesopotamia rather than in the land of Canaan. Another theory that it comes from Hapiru is unlikely to be true for a number of reasons. But if you would like a full argument, Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament, Volume 10, has 16 pages of academic discussion on the term Ivri and why Hapiru is probably etymologically unrelated.
What is an Ibri? Where do the Ibris come from? You're not going to believe this. Here we go. All right, so the Iberians were an ancient people settled in the eastern and southern coasts of the Iberian Peninsula, at least from the 6th century BCE. Well, that's great. Let's keep on going. Let's explain a little bit more about this. Lands of Iberia, all right? Let's see where this is located. A Harvard professor is actually going to explain this by the name of Barry Fell.
Barry Fell was a Harvard professor of invertebrate zoology, who was also an amateur epigrapher. And in 1976, he published a book making all kinds of outlandish pseudo-academic claims about pre-Columbian contact between ancient West Asia and Europe and the Americas, based on inscriptions that he thought attested to some of the languages from the ancient world. His claims did not stand up to academic scrutiny, and no experts today take his claims seriously.
Okay, so Abram being a Hebrew, which is an Ibri, is from the Iberian Peninsula. This is Spain. Abraham was from Spain, Portugal, Italy.
No, he wasn't.
And now the Bible starts to make a lot more sense when you start to think about the Sephardic Jews, which were known as the Spanish Jews.
This does not make any sense whatsoever of the Bible, which does not mention Sephardic Jewish peoples who began inhabiting the Iberian Peninsula during the late Roman Empire, not during the biblical period.
And they're the ones that wrote the Kabbalah, Zohar, Talmud, all these different books.
The Zohar is a part of the Kabbalistic literature, which does originate within medieval Judaism, primarily in the Iberian Peninsula and in France, but the Talmud overwhelmingly comes from Babylon and from Jerusalem, from Israel and from Mesopotamia, and is not related to the Iberian Peninsula.
This takes us down a completely different route and a completely different path. There's more to this, and I could explain more to you, and I will here soon. But I want to let you know this right now. Nothing is as it seems, and the wool is being played over our eyes. These people were from Spain, Italy. Think about the Roman Catholic Church.
This is a profoundly misguided and misinformed and potentially anti-Semitic as well as anti-Catholic conspiracy theory.